Kelin.
Joe.
All right. Have we done one of these since the election? Yeah, we did one, I think. Did we?
We did. One. Oh my, we don't even know what day it is. I don't know. What's the date today? How long was the election? Like over a week now. Holy crap.
That's forever.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about the election anymore. If we can bury it so we don't have to talk about it, that would be awesome.
Let's not.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I did see your Facebook post about phrases and words you can't stand that you want to like abolish. Was catch these hands on there?
No.
I actually like that one.
Okay. Well, I'll put it on the list just for you as things that whenever we get one of those stupid sayings and people overuse it instead of... See, I have respect for authors that have a way with words to be able to take ideas and instead of trying to make them smaller, make them bigger and flowery.
Like
and
a wordsmith.
They draw you in, right?
Yes.
And now we do the opposite. We're trying to make all of the words like... IDK, right? We're trying to make it as small as possible.
LOL.
Yeah.
Sus. That's not even a new one, actually. Sus has been around, but same. I always thought that was dumb.
So it would be one thing if you took the time you were saving to use the whole word and invest it in something else, but we don't do that. We get dumber and more lazy and more apathetic, and that's just our demise.
And then it gets worse because then we continue to make new words like Riz. Do you know this one?
Yeah, sure do.
I only know that because of my kids. And now I'm seeing it everywhere. Like adults are adopting Riz. And I'm just like, oh.
So it's a person that has charisma, and then you take Riz, and now you have Riz. When I will say, if I want you to know that you have charisma, I will say, you have charisma.
But
and you know what I'm talking about.
I think you can use it in other ways too.
Of course you can.
Like to riz someone up is like what, flirting with them or jazzing them up,
It's still charisma.
I saw a shirt, it said the ultimate rizzler.
Well, one of the primary points of idiocracy is that language deteriorates to a point where we forget what the definitions are, and then we make our own, and then it just comes down to like grunts, and then it's Valley Girl, and then it just goes to not able to communicate with one another.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine taking someone who's never had any exposure to Chaucer, Shakespeare, any of the great works, and telling them, read this and tell me what this even means when they used Riz like 2 minutes before, right? They won't know what's going on. They won't know what the author meant. They won't be able to follow the storyline at all.
I know. But I really feel like I don't know what it is about it. I really am into catch these hands. You're about to catch these hands.
So, okay, let's translate it into normal people language.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by catch hands? And I want you to use words like they were designed to be used.
I'm about to physically harm you.
See, there is more power. There's more power. And I say laziness because you can get away with threatening me, right? With you're going to catch hands because it's like flippant, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody said that to me on the street, we would fight, and I would probably punch you as many times as I can in your face. And that's way more effective than the flippant, I'm going to say something, but I hope you don't actually touch me because I'm too much of a pussy to really stand behind words that mean something. That's what it means.
But you know why I think I like it is because what I picture when I hear it or when I use it. Like, it's not just like a fight or hitting someone. Like, I picture someone like... I don't know. It's a really funny image in my hand, which is why I think I like the phrase so much.
Well, think about when we were kids. When you had a disagreement within a friend group, I mean, maybe women didn't do this, but girls didn't do this. But if you had a disagreement and someone threw an insult at you, you would directly 20 seconds later punch them, and you would fight until you were a little slower to throw insults because, insults equal bruises, right?
Yeah.
And then so you held some of that nastiness in, but if you have all these passive people who are just throwing, bad language at each other, but none of them will actually throw down, like what's the consequence of being a douchebag, right?
Yeah, all these keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting too, not to bring up the election, but all this crap I see online and all this strong language thrown around online, I wonder who would ever say or act like that or back that up in person?
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Nope.
And that's part of the problem. We feel we have too much confidence that we say words that don't end up backing those words up. So I'm going to invent a keyboard then when you're sitting there talking like you're big and bad, that
Yeah.
I have the ability to make a big fist come out of the keyboard and punch you in the face, right? And then you know if
Yeah.
you use the punch in the keyboard to the other guy, they can use the punch back out you. So maybe you're like, hey, I'll be a little bit more reserved. When I say you're a dick and I get the punch to the face and the keyboard's like, hey, that was an equal exchange, right?
Yeah.
People will learn that there are repercussions in running your mouth. And then shut some of those idiots up.
Yes. Yeah, a little different talking big game when you're online compared to like if you're in a bar somewhere, you're talking to someone face to face.
So I think a lot of our problems come down to if we would just, kind of square up to each one another. And
You're like more fighting. We need more
More-
not division with words. We need more physical fighting among people.
yeah, and among politicians, duels are still a pretty good idea. Like, it's
Yeah.
good to yap about somebody, but if that guy can turn around and say, duel, right?
Yeah.
Let's settle this with a sword.
How
or settle-
about instead of countries going to war, your country's leader versus my country's
That's
leader?
it. Yes, you want to
In the
end
streets.
war. You want to end war. Take those douchebag politicians and put their skin in the game and see how tough they talk when it comes down to
Yes.
it. Hell yeah!
And then when you're voting for a candidate, you got to be like, can this candidate take a punch? Can they throw a punch? This dispute's going to be either over in 5 minutes or 2 seconds or who knows.
you would elect a little different. You'd vote for the guy that looks like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger in his prime, rather than some skinny soy drinking wussy, right?
Yeah, I'd be like, I liked his policies, but this dude's a beefcake, so that's who I got to vote for. Whole new level.
I'm telling you, it would change. It would absolutely change the dynamic. And what Trump said during the. Did I just I brought up politics?
Just a little.
What Trump said about Liz Cheney, she'd feel a lot differently if the guns were trained on her. And it's a
Yeah.
different perspective to look at when you're putting yourself in danger and you would choose something else, then you're a wussy, right? For sending
Yeah.
somebody else's son or daughter into a war to be killed, and you get to be behind a safe desk.
Yep. You know what else? You know what else is going to solve? So more violence, and by violence we mean fist fights among leaders. Then we sell that on pay-per-view, and the money goes to the economy of the winner.
Yes, absolutely.
Now you've got a stronger economy and country. Maybe they could fundraise or bet who's going to win,
So
and that money all goes.
do you think it would turn into a bunch of battles, or do you think it would turn into nobody ever wants to start a war because they know they're about to get their ass beat?
Well, I could see it going both ways. I could see it would probably bring around either more peace because people don't want to be in a fight and get hurt, or if they see the money that the fight brings in, maybe they want a little fight. Maybe now, we become WWE of the world, where it's just a show. Oh, my country's not doing so hot. Our prices have gone up. We need to make a little money. I'm going to pick a fist fight with this country. Hey, and if you could just, go along with it, and then we sell it and I'll split it with you. And this, I feel like, is going to solve so many problems.
Yeah, and I think it should be mandatory service. If you serve in politics, you got to go into the Coliseum.
Yes.
You got to face down the tiger and see if we have so many brave people that say, I want to be a politician. Oh, that would be good.
And if you're too old and you're like, I can't fight anymore, that means you can't serve anymore. You are out.
Yeah, can't outrun the
in-
tiger. Hang it up, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, you're not healthy because you haven't taken care of yourself, or your country's food supply is not healthy, so you guys now aren't strong enough to fight.
Survival of the fittest,
You better
baby.
do something about that.
Gene pool ends with you.
Oh my gosh, this is an amazing idea.
Yeah.
Why are we not doing this? This solves so many problems.
But we thought that not doing violence would end up in civility. But human beings are flawed. And so instead of just being outwardly uncivil, right, we mask it and we pretend that we're sophisticated. But when you dig down, we're still doing the same shit. But those people, those idiots get to hide behind words instead of actions.
Yeah.
So that's all we ended up doing.
Would you rather be involved in a physical fight, like a fist fight, or a verbal fight, a verbal
Fist fight,
altercation,
every day, all day, every day.
where someone like really just cuts you to the core? You'd rather take a punch than a really awful.
There are
something
things
said.
that happen to you during a fight that you will never get to experience unless you were in a fight.
Like
I'm
what?
talking like a regular fight where you are just wailing on someone and they are wailing on you. Like one-sided fights where somebody just gets their ass beat. You don't really get to feel the things about winning and losing. You don't feel the adrenaline. You don't feel the masking, like the pain and what's happening. You feel most alive. Like Fight Club. Fight Club was a great depiction of what is brought out to you when you're really in that arena.
See, I've never been in a fight.
You should be.
Other than like as a kid, me and my brothers.
Do you want to fight sometime? Like I will walk you through.
No.
Why?
Because I'm going to get hurt.
You don't want to feel all of the goodness that fighting would deliver?
I like everything on my face right where it is.
Okay, well,
I don't want to rearrange
how about this?
it.
We'll fight, and I will not be able to punch you in the face. I can punch you anywhere else but the face.
What about a Houdini situation where you hit something and it's deadly?
Listen, these are risks you take. I've been.
Or crack a rib?
That is the danger.
That's what- I don't
But in a
wanna-
normal fist fight, that usually doesn't happen. You get hit and it's painful. Like you hit in the face, you get hit in the neck, you get hit in the back, like you hit in the ear, like
You get hit in the head and have brain damage.
right,
You could die.
for sure. But nobody does usually. That's a off chance.
That's lucky, don't you think?
What? Lucky that you don't die?
Yeah, lucky that you're not like left a vegetable or something
No,
because you got hit
it's
in the
such
head.
an off chance. Yeah, hundreds of fist fights from the time I was really young all the way up through high school. Hundreds of them. I died 0 times.
But were you not like a kid being hit by another kid? What if you're an adult with like full grown muscles and strength and things like that? Like professional boxers.
Well, don't go up against a professional, someone of equal stature as you.
So you would only fight them if they were of equal stature, muscular strength, ability, everything.
I fought both. I fought people smaller than me. I fought people way bigger than me. And it was all the same to me. You throw the same punches the same way. I mean, when they're bigger than you, they're slower. So I can hit somebody 5 times to their 1 hit. But if they get you on the ground, they can use their weight to be able to make sure you can't hit them anymore. And smaller people than you are the same problem, where they're super quick and they're hard to hit. When you hit them, you don't feel like you made much contact. So each one has their advantage, disadvantage. When you take somebody on equal scale, what it basically happens is it ends up being so equal that you're just exchanging pain with one another. Nobody really ever wins and nobody ever loses. It just goes on a really long time until you give up, right?
I was actually just going to say, do you give up because you tire out?
Yes.
Does someone eventually say, okay, please stop?
Your arms feel like they're made of cement at a certain point because you don't, when you're in a fight, you think the first 1 minute your adrenaline's kicking and you're throwing punches and whatever, but then you start getting winded and then you start getting really, really, really tired because you're putting all your ass effort. It's not like boxers who pace themselves and know, kind of train for 9 rounds. It's you put it all on those first couple punches.
It's a sprint.
And then you're like, ugh! And so the punches get lighter as the fight goes on, for sure. And so if you're in better shape than somebody, sometimes you win.
And it doesn't hurt. Like you had said something about like you don't feel the pain or something after a while.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Like I got hit in the ear one time, and that was it's almost like tattoos, right? So
I don't have a tattoo.
there are some points that if you get hit on, no matter what, it hurts like hell. But when
Yeah.
you're in the fight, you notice that it hurts, and you really don't get to feel that pain until after the adrenaline wore off. But when it's happening, you're like, I'm going to feel that one. That one's going to be one that tucks me into bed at night.
Yeah. I've done that where like I accidentally kicked something or ran into something and it it doesn't hurt right away, but it's coming.
Yeah. So this one of the last fights I had, and this was probably junior year of high school, I swung with this hand and I caught the jaw right on this bone and I got a boxer's fracture and I heard the freaking thing snap and I couldn't feel it. So I kept punching with it and I just knew that I broke it. And the more I punched, the worse it was going to get. Thankfully, a teacher broke it up at a certain point, and yes, it was absolutely broken. But I continued to punch with it. I could probably have gone to the end of, even longer than the end of the fight. Because you don't feel it.
Oh, I was watching a UFC fight one time years ago. I don't even remember who the fighters were. And one of the fighters took a punch to the forehead, like right here, and it goose egged. Huge. So big that the ref sort of called a timeout, looked at the guy, did the whole like, are you okay kind of thing. The guy's like, yeah, I'm good. Let me keep going. He's like, are you sure? Yeah, I'm good. Let the fight go on. So, of course, his opponent purposely went right at it.
Yeah.
Repeatedly. And this thing exploded. And I was watching in a Buffalo Wild Wings down south, and everybody in that place went, oh my God, like just lost it. And the ref is like, we're done here. We're done here.
Yeah.
The guy's like, no, I feel fine. He's like, you're clearly not fine. We're done.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the chemicals, the concoction you get when you're getting your ass beat or giving an ass beating will mask any pain that you feel in the moment and allow you to keep fighting and not even know that you had that injury. I'm even thinking that sometimes, like, even when I watch football and somebody like breaks a leg or whatever, and I'm thinking like in the moment they feel it because they weren't in fight mode.
Yeah.
Right. But if I were like somebody did a leg kick on you and fractured or give you a hairline fracture and there's got to be some pain there, I'm wondering how long the body would go along letting you still fight. Like if you collapsed and it was separated, I can see you going down, but I bet you wouldn't even know until the fight was over.
Kind of like car accidents. Really, I feel like you hurt more the next day.
Yeah, the body's amazing for allowing you to work through pain.
It is.
So like when let's just say a running back, okay, they hurt their leg and they decide that it's just a painful thing and whatever, they say shoot you up with a bunch of numbing chemicals. And then you're like, oh, nothing hurts, so I can continue to play. And they play the entire game knowing that had they not had the shot, they would be in some major pain.
So when a fight begins, first punch.
Oh, you're interested in this fight.
I'm a little interested.
Yeah.
Do you feel that first one?
It's more shock. Like you switch into this mode. And so I'm thinking about one where I've done a lot of the first punching.
Interesting.
And so one is the unexpected ones are when someone blindsides you and you didn't see it coming and they hit you somewhere, like whatever. And I'm telling you, the backside of you is usually where the blindsides come. I got hit in the neck one time.
Isn't that kind of like a cowardly shot, though?
For sure. So you get hit in the neck and you're kind of like, what just happened here? It doesn't really hurt all that much, but now I'm a little pissed that somebody took a shot at me in the back, right? Nobody ever hits you from the front with a blindside. And so, like, you go right into that mode. Like, it's almost immediate where...
Like, oh, I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah, right.
Like a rage?
Like, shock. Then, what happened? To, I'm going to rip out your soul. Like that. Keep asking questions about fighting. I want you to be a good fighter, too. So, I will answer...
I know. I want to learn how to fight. And I remember, like, as a kid, my dad was always like... You don't ever throw the first punch, but you throw the last, and you end this, and you got to get your hands up, and but I've never actually been in a serious fight, knock on wood. And it's been so long since I've even thought about it. I don't even know. My fear is I would hurt myself because I wouldn't throw a punch right. Like I remember as a kid, my brother and I were going at each other, and I kicked him. And I remember hearing all my toes crack and then go numb for a second. Yeah. And I'm just like, that would be me in a fight. I would throw a punch, break my hand, jack something up. I don't want to do that. How do I not do that? How do I get dangerous?
So you're going to take a class in like Taekwondo or Jiu-Jitsu or something, right? And they teach you how to manipulate the body so that you don't throw a vulnerable piece of your flesh at someone that's going to result in some kind of injury. You can fight and not injure yourself. It's possible. Now, most of my fights, I had no training whatsoever about how to do it right. But it just kind of occurs to you that you got some extremities and just throw them at the other guy, right? And if you make contact in sensitive areas, you might win that fight. In the beginning, like I started fighting when I was 5 years old. So if you watch video of me fighting at 5, it was probably more slap fight than it was punch fight, right? It was probably right? But as you do enough fights, you know what works, what doesn't work, what keeps you controlled, what gets you tired. And by the time you get to high school and you're fighting, you're more of a machine than you were when you were 5 years old. I think it should be required of every person fight and get in maybe 50 fights in their lifetime.
But what would you say your mental state is when you're in that? Do you at all think like, I better be careful I can't actually kill someone? Or is there no logical thinking, just acting?
Think the most primitive state of mind that you can have, and that is where you're at. You are thinking of no other thoughts other than, punch placement and where you need to be. Like, I'm thinking of a couple of them, and time goes, and this is weird to say, time goes by super fast, but also super slow. Like the perceptions slow things down so that you can maneuver things and punch at things and whatever.
Uh-huh.
But a 5-minute fight in your perception might feel like it lasted like 5 seconds.
Really?
I would be surprised. In the moment, throwing each punch, time was almost at a standstill. But the duration of it, something that may have lasted 5 minutes, really only felt like it lasted 5 seconds.
See, because I feel like if I were seriously defending myself, like a stranger, somebody attacked me to do me harm, and I had to save my life, I feel like how I would go about that would be maybe far more vicious than if it were like you and some kid at school, exchanged words, insulted each other, ticked each other off, and then threw hands.
I really think when it gets to that level, your brain immediately hands it down to your primitive faculties and you just go into ape mode. I really do. There's no logical thought. There's not like, I'm going to get tired, or how long is this thing lasting, or where do I got to be next, or any of the normal thoughts. It is literally survival mode, and you are operating in a space that you never get to see unless you're in a fight. And that's why I think more people should visit there, because you get to really meet your real self there. So if you think like, I'm in the middle of the night and somebody breaks into my house and they come in, you think what you would do and then knowing what you would do. And those are two separate things.
Yeah.
Right? When you have a gun and you have it loaded and you're going to go into shoot stage, right? You're just going to act on instincts, and you are going to basically replaster the wall with whoever came into your house, right? That's your primitive instinct, is not thinking about who they are and the mistakes they made and the family they have at the home, or giving them some grace. No, they are part of your wall now. And then the reasonable person is like, maybe I can negotiate with them and maybe I should talk them down from it. No, in my house,
Maybe we
in
could
my
just
room,
leave.
you're a threat. Now you're part of the wall.
I had another question for you. So once the fight is done, how often would you say it is the beef is settled and you never see this person again, or there's a very high chance of another fight happening?
So I had one kid in my neighborhood. His name was Jack. And we fought, probably of my couple hundred fights, he was probably about 50 of them. We fought regularly because we both elected to the fact we were very evenly matched. He was about 6 foot tall, and I was 5'5" tall, skinny as could be. I was skinny as can be. I had the fighting stature, like I was this little boxer guy that was intense. He was this lanky guy, and so it was a very evenly matched fight. So every time we would disagree, it's almost like he bought into the fact that I was going to beat his ass again, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I bought into the fact that this is how we settle our differences. And so it was just like, okay, here comes another version of this. Talk shit, throw an insult out, get your ass beat, and we'll recycle the thing again. And I've had other people, we're like best friends now. Like what it did was it allowed us to move on from the thing that we were all yappy about. And then the yappiness went away. And it's like, okay, well, we did it respectfully. We shook hands. We were best friends after it. So, and then I have one dude who he's salty about it because he was big. He was a big dude. Okay. So he thought he's going to come at Joe.
He's going to squash you.
He's going to squash me. And I embarrassed the shit out of him. Like I embarrassed him so much and I ruined everything that he told me the two things. Like first he made up a lie and said, you know what a penny roll is?
Uh-uh.
All right. Penny roll is where you take a roll of pennies and you put it inside your punching hand and it solidifies your punching ability. So he said I had a tool in my hand, and the only reason I beat his ass is because I had help from a penny roll, which was not the case. I never used a penny roll.
You're like,
so that was number one.
Me.
And then after that one deflated, he said, if he didn't hit me in the face so many times, I would have totally kicked his ass, which I sat back and thought, like, the goal of hitting you in the face so many times is kicking your ass, right?
Yeah.
And so if I would have decided to put my hands behind the back, you would have totally got me.
How about I just shoot him right in the hip while he
But
goes
that
at
was
my
just
face?
the embarrassment and had to throw something out or whatever. So I've seen all across the spectrum. Someone who really said, "You got me." Some of them who are like, "Hey, let's do this again next week," and some of them like, "Oh, there's a reason why I lost you," and then whatever.
So how do you feel about fighting in sports and during a sporting event when, two players go at it? Because I got to be honest, that's when I am most interested in sports. I love watching a fight during
More
like
of
a
it,
hockey
not
game
less.
or something.
More of it, not less.
Yeah. So you're not the kind of person that's like, oh, that's bad sportsmanship. They should not.
No, bullshit. Like the way sports was, if you look at the origin of sports, we put our warriors in the center and we
Yeah.
proved out that you were more badass than the other guy. And we came to this delicate soy version of it. Like, come on, you're a warrior, right? If this was an actual culture, we would take the strongest amongst us and go fight our battles against big giants and things that were threatening the people who couldn't fight for themselves. Like,
Yeah.
suck it up, Buttercup, right? And stop complaining that you're going to get a
Yes.
bruise.
I always get so mad if we're at a hockey game and two players start to fight and then the ref breaks it up. We're like, don't let him
Exactly.
go. And you'll
That's
have
what it's
those
supposed
refs
to
that'll
be.
be like,
That is
All
the
right, get a
purpose of
minute
the
in here.
sports.
yes.
Sports are a fairer version of what causes death normally. Trial it out.
What about like when it's a local sport? I mean, we had that happen locally here not too long ago where fights broke out, even fights in the stands broke out. Are you like, yay, or not? The time and place?
We've deviated from what sports is, and now it's just like an apathetic game where we, putting points up on the board more than that we have a true specimen of athletic ability.
Yeah.
Right? We have some soy people out there, and sorry about your soy people, but
Soy
you guys are the
people.
worst. So the soy people. Right, they're trying to participate. They just lack the testosterone to be able to do it well, and so that we got to like really diminish the, the threat of competition in order for the soy people to do things well. Mm-hmm. And so that's what sports becomes. It becomes so safe, and if you want safe,
Participation trophies.
but we have two categories of we have two categories of sports. We have chess, where it's a mental game, where the soy people will do very well. Use your brain and not your body. And then we have regular sports where it's more about the athletic composition and whoever's playing. And the chess people like started migrating into the other sports and diminished the amount of testosterone that is.
You would consider chess a sport?
Yeah, it's a sport. It's a mental game.
A sport.
It's a sport. Two people of certain acumen going at each other, and there is a winner at the end. That's a sport.
Is poker a sport?
Yeah. Poker's a sport. You have a bunch of certain acumen that go at each other, and there's a winner at the end. Yeah.
Okay,
Anything
okay.
is a sport. Cheerleading is not a sport.
That was going to be my next question.
Cheerleading is not a sport.
How is that not and chess is?
Okay.
Yeah.
So the definition is you have people of equal acumen, and there is a winner at the end, right?
Have you now ever been to a cheerleading competition? Because they have those.
Go ahead.
There are cheerleading competitions
Right.
where squads compete with extreme athletic ability,
Right.
and there is a winner at the end.
Give me the scoring of said cheerleading.
The scoring.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
I mean, I
you
haven't-
defeated the opposition by what? Capturing the queen or capturing the king, knockout, more points on the board.
Technique. It could be technique. It could be.
Go ahead. Go into technique. So if you had something, if you were able to do something that somebody else was, it's worth 4 points and it goes on the board, right?
So you want like a literal example?
Literal example of how two people can go, and you and I are in a cheering competition,
Okay.
right? And I can exhibit some kind of talent, right, that can be equally measured, and a score can be put on the board, and we can compare my score versus yours, and you lose, I win.
Okay. So, real quick, would you consider something like dance to be a sport?
No.
Okay. Then you're probably not going to like this.
Okay.
So technique is basically how you perform something. So different moves with your body, how you do perform that move. There's a way that it should look. when you do it, and there's how it should not look. And if you do it and you look right and the other person doesn't, if you sound better than the other person does as far as volume or cadence, if you have different, sometimes depending on the level you're competing at, different stunts and abilities of like almost like gymnastics. Would you consider gymnastics a sport? All right. I can't even, talk to you.
Listen. It has to be something that is measurable. It can't be like an arbitrary, like how one person felt about you, right? So if I'm watching the Olympics and I see a gymnastics competition, and they say that if you do a double-edged twirl, it's worth 4 points, and I see you do a double-edged twirl and you get 4 points on the board, that's a competition. If it comes down to someone like who understands an arbitrary sport that nobody else does, and that person gives a rating, and you're like, oh, I trust that person absolutely won. Then,
okay, so you're just saying it's the difference between a competition and a sport.
There's something that's measurable that I don't have to have faith in somebody who understands something that I don't understand to determine who wins. Look, so boxing, for instance, they do a hit count. Right? So you have scores on the side that sees what happens, and they rate a boxing match based on how many good hits happened, who had the advantage in every round. It's a hard scoring event. So they spread it over 3 different judges to find out who made most contact, who inflicted the most damage, and who is the winner. So if you have 2 people that just kind of go out for 9 rounds, and then it's hard to tell because nobody got knocked out. So we got to figure out who won based on something to measure. Not an arbitrary deal where somebody felt soy sauce and so they felt better at a certain person.
Soy sauce. I don't understand how soy sauce got... Okay.
Yeah, it's feel good. It's emotions rather than something that can be measured. Good pushback. I could see some pushback in your eyes, so pushback.
I mean, to be honest, I have never scored a cheerleading competition. I've been involved in them, but this was eons ago. So I don't know if I see a huge difference in, like you said, scoring like a boxing match, which you would consider to be a sport, and scoring a cheerleading competition, a dance competition. Do you consider like figure skating a sport?
It all really depends. If I give you a scorecard and I say, if you do X, let's change the whole math on it.
Okay.
We take a couple of young kids and we're like, you're going to build something. And if you build the hardest thing, you get 4 points. If you build the middle thing, you get 3 points. And if you build the easy thing, you get 1 point. Go, right? So you're going to build something and somebody has to judge whether or not it had a measurable hard, middle, or easy.
Yeah.
When after the easy, you get 1 point. I mean, it's easily measurable. So you would have to take a sport like cheerleading and tell me what they did to put points up on the board. And it not be just someone's opinion of how much they're impressed with what they saw. So in gymnastics probably has the most ability because they have things that are easy to do. If you have a certain tumble that's worth so many points, and I just added up the points of the difficulty of whatever you did. So yeah, I would say that's a sport. You outdo somebody.
I would say in cheerleading that is a thing for the ones that actually do the stunting and the lifting. I think there are degrees of difficulty when it comes to that. But yeah, if you don't see gymnastics as a sport, just a competition with different levels of difficulty, then yeah, that's what I would say.
It's very passive. It's almost like you have 2 fifth graders and you have a drawing competition, right? And you score the drawings that they make, right? And you're going to rank one that's better. So you're going to have what their parents rank them, what their teachers rank them, and what the general public who doesn't care about them rank them. And I bet you every score is different because if you're judged from an objective point of view where you don't have a dog in the fight, right? You're going to be harsher than the person who's their parent and the person. So if you have 3 sort of levels of objectivity, right, then it's not a sport. If I throw a ball in a hoop, you have 3 people who tell you what the score is. They're all going to universally agree what the score is. If you take an emotional scoring, depending on who you are, right?
Uh-huh.
I might score you more harshly if I don't really appreciate what it is that you did versus your parent versus the judge versus whatever. That's what makes it not a sport, is when you have to offer into it some like concessions of impression.
Yeah, I used to get real irritated back when I was younger and I was involved with cheerleading. You would have these tryouts, for high school, middle school, whatever. And the cheerleading tryouts always made sense when the judges, the people deciding whether or not you're making the squad, were YSU cheerleaders, past cheerleaders, other cheerleading advisors, maybe from other schools, things of that nature. And then you would get these random years where the judges were just parents that maybe had never cheered before. And I'm like, what sense does that make? You don't even understand what I'm doing or how it's supposed to look.
And that would be someone who has an appreciation for it versus a totally objective observer.
Yep.
And how they would take it, where was that
They think
impressive?
looks good.
Exactly.
All right, so back to fighting.
Yeah.
Why would you rather be physically harmed over verbally bashed?
Because there's a lot more invested in throwing hands. I use your term.
Yeah, about to catch
There's a lot more invested. So you got to the seriousness of what you're willing to invest in something is a confidence thing. Like, I was able to carry myself when I knew that I can defend myself, but I wouldn't pick on anybody, or I wouldn't throw hands unless it was absolutely necessary. There was a confidence that knew I was capable, but I was also restrained, right? When you go online and you can throw out anything, there's no restraint in that. There's no discipline in that. There's nothing that stops you from just vomiting because you know you're not going to be punched in the mouth. Like, when you get punched in the mouth and you have to say, I'm going to tell you that you're stupid, and I know that if I do that, I'm risk being hit in the mouth. Well, that I'm stupid means a lot more than I'm texting you, and I know you're not going to hit me in the mouth for it.
So, like, the
Carry some
verbal
weight.
altercation sort of, there's no way to sort of amp that up.
Exactly.
Well, peak. You could say something extremely
If
insulting.
I get in your face and I say, you are stupid, is that more weighty than if I'm two continents away and I'm saying, you're stupid? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Way more weight, because I'm willing that if I call you that, I know that you might take a swing on me, and I'm cool with that.
So what if... So I guess just the verbal then altercation is just not very scary. It's not very...
It's free. Anything free has no value. So I could call you a Nazi douchebag, and it means nothing because you can't do anything to me. I get in your face and call you a Nazi douchebag, and you throw hands at me, then I'm willing to also throw a hand back to you, because I know your accusation was more serious than the dude that's like, ee!
What would you do
Yeah.
if you had someone being a douchebag, getting in your face, doing everything that anyone else by any other measure would cause you to throw hands and pummel them, but they are clearly bigger, stronger, and a better fighter than you? Do you suck it up and be like, whatever, and leave? Or you're like, well, I guess I gotta die today, because I can't let this go.
That happened a bunch of times.
Yeah?
All right, so here's how it went down. Dude that was a really good fighter. I've actually witnessed a lot of his fights, and he was a very sophisticated hands thrower. And what he did was he stood next to me, and he said, Daniel, if you don't do what I want, I am going to beat your ass, right? Which is an effective exchange, right? And so under normal circumstances, I would say, Master, tell me what I'm supposed to do.
Whatever you say. Yes, sir, whatever you say.
And my response was, because it's truth, right? I said, you might be right, but I am going to get my shots in, and we'll see how this goes down. And there was never a fight, because usually the bluster of the bully is not what they think, and because they expect people just to back down and recoil.
Just do it. Yeah.
I was a thrower, so I didn't care who I was fighting. I fought 300-pound guys and I fought 70-pound guys, right?
Yeah.
And it was just fighting to me, and so like by today's standards, people pack guns more than they do fists, and so in today's deal, I would never recommend that my son be so willing to fight. But in our case, like, there was never knives, there was never guns. It was always just two people fist fighting. And so let's just say I said that and the dude decided to pummel me. I'd probably get a couple shots in. He would probably dominate me. And that would be it. I was willing to make the sacrifice into the exchange. But I would never in a million years back down to someone who challenged me, right? Even it wasn't about winning or losing. It was what I was willing to do to defend my honor.
Did you ever use brass knuckles?
Never weapon.
Because that's a weapon.
Yeah, never a weapon, anytime. It was always fists. That's it.
Back in the good old days. Because now you got to have a weapon.
Well, those are the soy boys. Like, they don't have the testosterone where their nuts are really small. And so they have to bring their nuts in the form of guns and brass knuckles.
Yeah.
And so if you really had nuts, you would work on your physique and you would work on your skill. And you wouldn't have to depend on some kind of tool for your inadequacies.
Yeah.
And that's why I would not trust fighting someone in today's. So if I'm at a tourist destination and someone squared up with me and whatever, I'd walk away in 2 seconds because it's not about honor.
Yeah.
It's not about something I said. You have somebody who's deprived of intelligence and
they're just crazy.
That's it. And
Yeah.
you have no idea what. So there's nothing to gain by standing your ground against someone who's obviously mentally unstable, but physically capable. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. Like my wife would look at me and say, that was a brilliant decision, and I'd be able to walk away without feeling like I was less of a man.
How long ago would you say was your last actual fist fight?
Junior year. I probably
So it's been some time.
Yeah. So I've had a couple of adult run-ins where I stood my ground and it diffused, and I think that happens in the adult world a lot of the time because I think people go into it with a lot of confidence when they see somebody who doesn't back down. They're totally quick to cut bait and leave. And so I stand my ground. I don't pursue. Like if somebody broke into your house, right? And then you pulled out your 9mm and they ran out the front door, you wouldn't chase them. Once they decided to run, they're gone, right? That's all you need to do is need them to run. That's all I need to do in a fight is stand up to you, watch you pummel yourself, and then run out the front door.
Well, now I feel like, too, though, when you're an adult, there are legal ramifications of fighting, or possibly. So do you think that in any way sort of affects whether or not you want to engage in a physical fight?
Never a single occurrence. Like
Really?
I was never thinking. I'm telling you, when you go to the primitive level, you are not thinking about repercussions it is you versus you, and that's it. Nothing else exists outside.
You're like
of the
consequences.
Yeah.
Worry about those later.
Exactly.
Right now.
Yeah, it does not enter into your ape brain that there might be consequences to this. It's just not part of it.
Dang. So will you teach me how to fight?
I will.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And I guess the first part is like an adult. I think a lot of people are pussies, like they really are. And so anything that they throw out there is really for show. And when it really came down to it, nobody was watching. Like they fold like a whatever. So if you just hold your ground to your principles, you're not the douchebag, you're not the aggressor, but you're willing to defend it. Like 99% of the time, you win that battle because they don't really want to fight. They just wanted to pretend like they wanted to fight.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, whatever.
Flex their beer muscles, basically.
But let's just say you have somebody who's decided and they're capable and they came up to you. Your goal is to just not die.
Yeah.
Right? So defend yourself, have a bailout point, and, stick to your principles. Like you might lose, you might get some welts on your face and whatever, but if you get a feeling where it's going to be a fair fight and you need to just hash it out, get it over with. Even if you're at a disadvantage.
I really, again, don't want to rearrange anything.
What I know about the public, that's not a threat.
No?
People are not good at fighting. So I've watched a bunch of these go down, and you don't have to.
Especially because I would think that the majority of fist fights nowadays they probably have something to do with alcohol, in which someone is clearly not their best.
They didn't watch the YouTube video about how to fight. They don't have formal training, so
There's
majority
a
of the people
YouTube video?
go watch a YouTube video about how to win a fight, right? And it'll teach you like how to hold a punch. Like, has anybody ever showed you how to grip? Do you put your thumb in? Do you put your
I know
thumb
you
out?
don't put your thumb in.
Do you hold it at turn fist? Do you poke somebody in the eye? Like, what's your strategy? Most people are not watching that video. So they do whatever they think to do in the moment. And if you've had a couple of fights under your belt, most of the time you win this battle only because the person in front of you is a freaking novice and is working out off of the adrenaline. So you win that battle.
I mean, it's this, right? Is this a fist? It's not this.
So you want the outward thumb, because the chances when you start throwing hands that you really don't have much control, and you don't want your thumb inside where you risk breaking it. You want your thumb up top where it's going to poke somebody in the face. You want your thumb out of the way and just let the top of the knuckles do all of your talking for you. So you want to keep the thumb out of the way so you don't break it.
Is that why you see boxers sort of doing this with their thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
I never knew that was why. I thought they were just sort of, loosening up until they closed it.
No, you're not closing your fist. You're not putting your thumb in play, because the chances are you hit someone's face and you break your thumb because of that. Just keep it out of the way, right?
Get the thumb
Now, in your
out of
case,
there.
so if you're fighting a girl, all right, girls have different rules. They're not doing closed fist shit. They're doing slap fist.
Pulling hair and scratching.
I've watched some of these go down, and it doesn't
God.
seem like something I would want to be involved in, because it's scratching, clawing, taking skin off, pulling hair, whatever. Like, I really don't know how you score a lady fight. I know how you do. Men will stand there and say, 1 point, 1 point, right? We'll do that. We'll take some shots to the faces to get points. But women just kind of like embrace and try to hurt one another, and I don't know how to score that.
I feel like there would be more. It would be more likely that I would need to fight a man than a woman. That's what I want to prepare for.
You would fight a man?
I mean, if it was like self-defense. I mean, you're a girl when you go out to bars with other girls and guys are drinking and they think they can do whatever they want, and then I gotta throw hands. I want to know how to do that. All right, so usually the girls were complimenting each other.
Let's take this. Let's just say that scenario goes down.
Okay.
And so far, society has taught you what to do. What's your first move? Guy squares up at you and saying, "Bitch, you embarrassed me in front of the whole crowd. You're going down." And they're gonna say, "Go for the nuts," right? Go for the.
I could see that. That wouldn't be my go-to.
All right, what's your go-to?
I've never thrown a punch before, but I feel like it would either be face or right here.
You're throw punching?
I don't know. Maybe.
Let's decide. Let us decide, because you're in the moment. You're fighting against a guy, got some physical advantage on you, and now every part of wisdom that's ever been given to you as a girl about squaring up with a man. What's your first move?
If you go for instinct, I feel like it's face.
You're going face.
I feel like that's what my instinct would be, having never, ever been in a fight
So
before.
is the goal to win the fight or bail out of the fight? I got to know that first.
Probably win it.
Win the fight. So you want to go up against a dominating male and win the fight. I want
that man to be like, "Oh, shit. She just kicked my ass because I was being dumb and I regret my decisions."
Okay, so give me, just like in cheerleading, give me the superior athlete. What do you know about fighting that will give you an advantage against someone else who has primitive ape instincts that knows more about fighting you just biologically?
I feel like you gotta be fast.
Okay, you gotta be fast against a more dynamic male counterpart that is biologically faster.
You gotta make it count. Like, fewer punches that really do damage rather than a whole bunch that do nothing.
Okay.
I would think. I don't want to get hurt. I gotta protect myself. That's all I got. I don't know.
Okay. So my original advice of take some kind of taekwondo, jiu-jitsu, something where you learn something about the human body and where its vulnerabilities are, is 100% for females. You're working from a disadvantage. Guys can take a punch to the throat way easier than a girl can take a punch to the throat. So everything you can do, so can the guy, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to have a distinct advantage. If you can't name your advantage, you don't have one. and you need to go take a class so that you do have a physical advantage. So your best advantage is to not be in the fight in the first place. Like bail out and run away and not stand up to somebody who is superior in any way than you are, right?
Yeah.
Because have you seen like the guys who get hit a couple times and then they throw I don't hit a girl out the window and they start wailing on a girl and they lose in 20 seconds? Have you seen those? Mathematical disadvantage.
Okay.
For sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What's the math behind it?
Men are physically stronger in every way, right? And built into our biology, I can hit you and you will fall to the ground and go fetal position. You're not built to sustain hits. That's not how your biology works.
We're dainty.
Yeah. But if you take a class on jiu-jitsu or taekwondo or some kind of defenses, like you look at every different perspective. It's not male, female, and what's biologically sound. It's when an aggressor comes at you, every aggression equals a vulnerability. And when I come at you with this, all you're looking at my body is looking for the vulnerability and what to do. So you're responding to whatever I do. And you're like, oh, his carotid artery is exposed. Let's hit him there. Right? And so you're learning more about like, because my primitive ape instincts meant I'm going to throw a right hook on you, that you're going to see everything that I now just gave to you, and you take advantage of what I gave to you.
See, I could see myself, if someone was left like this, I could see me ducking, then get them in the nuts, and when they go down, then uppercut.
Guys, protect our nuts. We know that all you girls just want to hit us in the nuts.
That wouldn't be my go-to, I don't
remember
think.
those
Unless that's all I had. You know, like you hear about them like, if you're being kidnapped and they got your arms or something, I've heard, try to rake them with your heel. Or, I mean, if I got to go there because that's all I have, then I will. But
just note that all those soy boys, their nuts have retreated inside their bodies. So you kicking them there is like kicking a vagina.
Yeah.
Like, so there's no advantage.
That's why they are messing around with a girl, because they are not a man, clearly.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
but that is my, if you talk to people who specialize in defense, especially women and kids, to be able to survive some kind of attack, they are angling this at knowing the vulnerabilities and what normal ape-like men, like how they make themselves vulnerable and take advantage of those vulnerabilities. It's not about overwhelming them with your ability. It's about waiting until some dude who doesn't know how to fight exposes themselves and taking advantage of that exposure.
That sounds funny. Some dude exposes themselves.
Sounds creepy.
That's why we got in the fight.
How did we just talk about 45 minutes of fighting?
We're so violent. God, what's funny? We didn't want to talk politics, so we went to the next most violent subject.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We're terrible people is what it is. All right, let's do something lighthearted, something that's uplifting and shows that we have any intelligence whatsoever.
Deep down, we're good, lighthearted people.
Are we though? Are we? Name someone who is lighthearted that isn't just acting, that it's inauthentic, and they're really just primitive apes like I think we all are.
When you say lighthearted, meaning they're like what? They're just like...
So here's an example. Someone who's willing to give up advantage to get something that benefits someone other than themselves. That would be taking a sacrifice for other people.
Truly helping someone else with nothing in return.
So not everybody who's 99% of the public is looking out for their advantage. They capitalize on it, and they'll throw you under the bus in 2 seconds in order to get their advantage.
Thought we were lightening the subject, but okay.
But I want to take the 1% who really will sacrifice for other people if it means their demise or their disadvantage.
Like saints who are like true saints.
Yeah, but in modern civilization, do they exist? Are there people that you see saying, you know what? I can go this route and I got full advantage, what it means I crush everybody else, but I will forego my advantage and give away what I would normally get to the other people. Name that person. There are very few.
I think there are few. I think some people will sometimes. Not always.
Give me an example. Not a theoretical, like a real example of a human being that took the martyrdom for the greater good. If it takes you more than 5 seconds to come up with that, we live in a world.
There is an instance, and I can't remember what it was. I think my child did this. They had the chance to win something, and they didn't. So somebody else would. I can't think of the instance. But that's what I mean when I think it's maybe not people, but situations in which sometimes someone might.
Well, no, we take people and we sort of like put them on the pedestal of what we should all try to become, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe sometime it was Jesus. Maybe sometime it's other people.
That was going to be my one, is Jesus. But.
So if there aren't many people who you would know make the ultimate sacrifice, where you know that they gave up something they could have got for the something that benefited someone other than themselves, if it's not on your local memory of something that you've come across, then you have a whole lot of people in society that are looking out for number one, and very few people are taking the ultimate sacrifice for the good of other people.
And would you say, though, that it truly has to be a sacrifice? Like, for example, anybody could say, oh, well, I gave to the needy, I donated to a charity, I did whatever, when I had the money to do it.
When it's hard.
It's far different than I only have this.
Yeah, I have to make my house payment $400, and I took $300 and gave it to a charity, even though that meant that I would have to sacrifice making my own car payment or house payment because of that person. That's when it's hard. When it's convenient, it's super easy to be selfless.
I got a little extra money this month. I'm going to go ahead and donate to some charity or give it to someone. Well, that's your extra. That's very nice. That's great. You should do it. But you didn't sacrifice to do it.
Exactly. So the true human beings that took their freedoms or their prosperity and put it all on the line for things they would never enjoy, those are the true heroes. And it's not the sports heroes or it's not the political heroes. It's people who are like, I want to make the world a better place, and I could be like, F you, I'm going to go get mine and screw you. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take that. I'm going to forego it. I'm going to suffer a little bit so other people could have a little bit of what the prosperity I would have had. Those are the people that impress me. And there are very few of them. I couldn't name you a name.
I was just going to say, do you know any?
I don't. No, it's not typical.
Well, what's interesting is I wonder if you would even know if they were doing it, because they're not doing it for acknowledgement. You may not even know. That you know people that do that are like, I just gave somebody something.
In this world,
that
for
I
you
didn't
not
have.
to know is very, very unlikely. This is the world where I make a sacrifice and I go on Twitter and say, I made a sacrifice.com.
That is not those people. If they did that, they are not what you are describing.
Yes.
If they truly are who you are describing,
those true martyrs, they do it, they get no spectacle, and only after they died do they figure out that they did it, and you're like, oh, that's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
In current civilization and culture, if you make a sacrifice, then it is a branding element, and you'll know if someone made some kind of sacrifice.
It's interesting not to bring up politics.
We're not doing that. We're staying free for politics.
I heard, I was watching a podcast or something, and this was like when I was trying to watch a bunch of videos to figure out who I was going to vote for. This video happened to be a Trump podcast. He was talking to someone, and they asked him about, he paid for, oh my God, my memory. He paid for something. He gave money to something. It was for someone, and they said, well, nobody read about that. Nobody heard about that. And he's like, oh, I don't even know how you know that. He's like, I didn't do that for anyone to know. I don't want to talk about it. You know, it was just like, they're like, but that's incredibly generous and nice of you. And he's like, well, I didn't do it for acknowledgement, and wanted to move on. And I was just like, how many people would have done, especially the person who is the loudmouth that talks how great he is and hypes himself up all the time, and to do that, to do
I would be
something
more
secretive.
suspicious about the person that does a press release about the things they did well, right? Than the person who you find out about something they didn't really want to make the public, and you're like, oh, okay. Found out about it in spite of you trying to bury it.
Have you ever been in that position that you gave when it was a sacrifice?
A lot. There's a lot of hidden stuff that I have done, and so there's a, and this is you listen to Dave Ramsey at all?
I know who he is. I might catch a little bit here and there.
Okay,
I wouldn't
so there's
say all the
this
time.
one principle that sort of guides you to question whether or not you did something for the acknowledgement of doing the thing or you did it for the purest intentions. And certain times you have to ask yourself whether or not you would do the thing if you knew that it would not bring the spotlight to you at all. And sometimes you don't even know the difference between the two. And so sort of that acid test of, would you do a thing whether or not somebody noticed or not? If you wouldn't do it whether somebody would notice, then it was probably impure. So for instance, if you wrote off a charitable contribution, did you make the charitable contribution because you would get the write-off? And would you make the charitable contribution even if you didn't get the write-off? And taking sort of like the difference between those two things. One, you save tax money, and one, like, it's a benefit, but you would have done it anyway. And how do you measure whether or not you're doing it for the right reasons? And so, like, if you give a charitable donation and you mask your name, you do it anonymously so no one will ever know that you made the charitable donation, and you every bit as eager to make the charitable donation, knowing that it was faked, right? No one will ever know, and it will never be attributed to you. Would you still make the donation? It's a good, like, juxtaposition.
Yeah.
So did you do it so everybody would acknowledge it, or did you do it even if there's zero acknowledgement?
See, because I have attempted to do something without acknowledgement. It failed because of an idiot, but I was truly trying to donate to somebody. It was a total stranger. It was somebody I chose at random. I was trying to be very stealth. I was trying to not draw attention. I didn't want that person knowing who did it. I didn't want anyone around in the public area to know I did it. It was one person I was trying to talk to get it done. It ended up, it's a long story, but they saw it was me, and I didn't want that. And so in the moment, I was like, I truly just want to do this nice thing for this family. I don't want anyone to know. I want to be as secret as possible. Now, I will say, though, I did that because I was in a position to. Was it like my last dollar? No. Was it like I might struggle if I give them this, but I'm going to do it anyways? No. It was, I can afford to do this, so I'm going to do it. So what category would you say? That's still probably not that ultimate sacrificing for someone, but is it still do it without acknowledgement?
If your emphasis was that you wanted to do something because it's the right thing to do, and you didn't care if anybody noticed it, and in fact you would actually prefer it that nobody noticed it, it was for the best intentions. But did you make the contribution for its benefit, or did you make the contributions even if it was at a deficit? And that's the real acid test. So if you ask yourself when you do it, get no recognition, you get no benefit. In fact, what if you gave $1 and someone punched you in the face? Would you still give $1? That's the real test.
I gave $1 and I got punched in the face for giving the $1.
Exactly. Would you still do it? Then it's a true gift.
Yeah.
Because you have acknowledgement, you have neutrality, and then you have sacrifice. Are you willing to make the contribution in spite of a sacrifice?
Kind of like, would you give knowing they won't appreciate it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not only appreciate it, but you will degrade your brand for having done it. Would you do it anyway? And so if you give up a part of you to be able to do something, is sort of like more noble than a neutral give or a positive give, for sure.
Yeah. I would say in that instance, I was going to give and not know if they appreciated it or not. I was trying to get the hell out of there. It just went
So
awry.
let's just say on your taxes, you had $1,000 of taxes that you were going to give. And you had a chance to be able to give a gift, a monetary gift to somebody that would offset your $1,000. But you don't know whether or not you're giving the gift for the $1,000 tax write-off so you wouldn't have to pay the $1,000. So you decided to give the gift and not claim it so you still paid the $1,000. That would be a challenge to whether or not, did I do this for the tax incentive? Right? Now you know because you forgave, whatever it is.
Sure.
You didn't take the tax advantage. Forgone. But anyway, you didn't take it. So now you know your intentions were pure because you didn't take the benefit and you did it anyhow.
So kind of like you get a little thing at the end of the year, you know, if you give to your church or something, it's like, well, you donated so much, we'll take this to your tax person. It's like, should I though?
Did I do it for the tax advantage or did I just do it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's something for us
Fighting
to think
tax
about.
advantage. We were a very weird show today.
We're very bipolar today and every day.